ridiculous. So that's good. That's something.
And you had proper snow not long ago, didn't you?
We literally had snow on the ground 3 days ago.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And it's now t-shirt weather. Yeah. Been out on the day. I grilled today. I grilled like like bratwurst hot dog things for lunch. So that's where we're at. Snow to barbecue in a space of 2.5 days.
It sounds like Chicago too, to be fair. I think it was. Yeah. I think we had what, nearly 20 degrees on Monday, and we had minus 20 on Saturday. So,
Jesus,
what a joke. We'll kick off. We've got to kick off the therapy session, haven't we? Really?
Yeah. Episode 169, and it was not nice today.
No, I like we are. Yeah.
No, brutal. I tweeted out not long until the game finished. I saw Craig saw it too. I was considering just saying let's not bother, and I'll just dub over. Spend like 20 minutes just dubbing over Spurs over every time I said any of the other games.
Just the worst dub over possible as well. Yeah,
like Squid Game style. Yeah. Not great. I think let's start off with some good news before we even get onto the rest of it. So we are a positive podcast if and when possible, always. So let's start off right. We don't play again for 2.5 weeks. So we won't have to watch that for 2.5 weeks. That's got to be a plus, right?
Well, I think what's going to be fun is during this time period where the team don't play and we don't have to watch them, we're going to score as many goals from open play as we would have had in the, 2 months prior that we calculated this last time, didn't we? We haven't scored a goal from open play in the league since Leicester.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yep. Yeah. So we don't have to witness that. It's an absolute. We're now in disaster territory. If we don't beat Norwich, and I mean beat, if we don't beat Norwich, it's going to be the alarm bells are going to go off, and people are going to be talking about relegation. Will be number one topic. Potter out. Like, Bloom, what you're doing? Spend the money. Get rid of every single player. It's going to be that. It will be that. My body's ready.
We're already tuning up the band. The Potter out hashtag has been mildly more active.
Yeah,
we're getting there. Alex in the chat, welcome to Therapy BHA. Yes, pain is absolutely adequate right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just strange, isn't it? I think we're all low on confidence. Clearly, the team is low on confidence. It's just getting worse. It's sort of, I think I said to you guys just as the game was unfolding in a very similar way to what we've seen the last 5-6 games, is that it's not that we've been unlucky or competitive and we've just got, the worst end of the stick for all of those games. It's been categorically beaten 6 times in a row. And it's very hard to start picking yourself up from that. 1 or 2, that happens. That's football, as many people say. But 6 in a row with no real upstart. Like you said, try and start with a positive. We'll try and end with a positive as well somehow. But it's odd, deflating. And I don't know where that next win is coming from. And you're right. Like, if we don't beat Norwich, there will be a very prominent hashtag after that 90 minutes.
Well, Norwich and us are now rock bottom of the form table. Both of us in our last 6 have played 6, lost 6, and got nothing from them. Quite worryingly is we've only scored 1 goal in those last 6. Norwich have at least scored 4. They have conceded a bunch more. And
they've played Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea in that stretch. So I know we've had hard fixtures, but they have as well. We're the worst team in the league right now. We are the worst team in the Premier League at current time of recording. Until we prove otherwise.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? The El Dude brothers in the chat, another woeful performance. The same thing every week now. And it's becoming a point where you can actually actively say that, right? Like six games in a row, you get to be able to say this is a very consistent pattern. Enoch on the door, welcome. Thank God we got the points earlier in the season. Could be very ropey. Well, hey, if we're looking to set a record this season, if it's not going to be the draws, it could be the losses, and it'll be more than ropey. Then it'll be very scary once we get towards the end of the season.
What's most losses without being relegated?
I don't know.
But surely we're about to be in the market for that.
Yeah, we'd have to go and have a look at that exactly, because I am not sure. I'm not sure about that, or not great though. What is there to say today? Made a couple of changes, didn't make a great deal of difference. People saying we played a back four. Looked like a back five to me for most of that first half, and then it looked like we went to a four. Neither worked. Pascal Gross back in the side. A lot of people not pleased about that. Mopé, Trossard, McAllister up front. And again, the commentators even picked up on it today. We were the masters of our own downfall. Within the first 5 minutes, we had two incidences that could have been 2 goals to the good. I think it was Dunk laying off a pass to absolutely nobody on the penalty spot that was lucky that Veltman hammered that away just before the opposition player got there. And then, of course, that classic extra touch that Sanchez played that almost gave Kane an open... Well, it did give him an open goal. He just missed it. And from then on, it didn't get a great deal better, did it?
We should talk about Lewis Dunk, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
There's going to be a few names we're going to have to call out. Dunk, Sanchez, everyone else not named Mark Cucurella for the most part. Dunk is playing his worst football I've ever seen right now. Ever since he's come back from the... I hope to God Dunk is still injured a little bit, because if he isn't, I don't know, his head's gone. Like, something's not right, because it doesn't matter who Dunk used to play with. He would elevate whoever it was alongside him. You could play in a 3, the 4, whatever you want. You could have 14 people at the back or 2 at the back. He will make those players better around. He's making the players worse around him now. And he's putting them in crappy positions, like, as you mentioned already, Veltman, Sanchez, the pass back. Yes, Sanchez took too long, but multiple times where Dunk's passing has just been shocking. His decision-making, he's been slow to the ball. And if it wasn't for the fact that he still hasn't lost his best asset that you've seen out of him for his whole career, which is flinging himself in front of a shot when it comes in, he'd be a utter liability right now. That's the captain of the club, the heart and soul of this team. So when you look at everything else, if he's not working right, you don't have Adam Webster, who's arguably your most talented defender and one of your most talented players. It is a state through that spine of the team. There's nothing there. Right out the middle, there's no Webster. Sanchez is playing ropey. Dunk is playing awfully. Basuma, apart from 15, 20 minutes today where he played well, has been shocking. And Mopé couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at the moment, could he? It's so bad. I don't even know where I was going with this point.
No, I think you're spot on. You're just like we've said before, the elevation of maybe less talented players is one of the key attributes that we always say about Dunk, that he's able to bring the best out of players. And at the moment, I wouldn't go as far to say if Dunk has a bad game, they all do, but I wouldn't be far away. If your captain and the talent that we know that he has isn't operating, then a lot of it just doesn't fall into place. If he is short on confidence, maybe he's not yelling as much as he should, or maybe is not as much as he would have been. Like you said, I hope something else, and it sounds like a horrible thing to say, I hope something else is wrong. And it's not just some sort of sheer confidence drop, or something, because if it continues like that, and like we were saying at the top of the pod, I'm very unsure as to where the next point comes from, let alone 3, because this team isn't firing on any cylinders compared to what we saw the first half of the season.
Yeah, not at all. Alex in the chat, we had the first 5 minutes after halftime was okay-ish. Yeah, I thought that was good, to be honest. I thought we were playing exactly how we need to if we're going to start making inroads. Mopé opting to fall over instead of swing away from 6 yards out has summed up the last 6 games. I actually think the first goal that we conceded summed up the last 6 games as well. Now Adam did as well. We're definitely going to talk about Mopé, Alex. I saw a superb tweet that I actually retweeted earlier from BHAFC Danny. Go and give it a like because it was wonderful. It said that Mopé is that mate on FIFA Pro clubs who claims speed up lag when having a good opportunity to shoot or score. Wonderful. Just wonderful. It's so spot on. But that first goal, we hadn't really been exciting, had we, for that first 37 minutes? But I also didn't think we were. I thought we were a little bit hard done by with the manner of the goal. Just to be polite, really, I thought it was brutal. What are you supposed to do about that?
Well, it should have been that. Those are horrible little instances that occur, right? But those happen. Even the commentator said over here that sometimes if you take a shot, those go in. And when you're Brighton, you don't take a shot, you never get them. But Kane should have scored early on anyway, right? After the Sanchez thing, that Harry Kane, all-time away goal-scoring leader in the Premier League, missed an open goal. So, yeah, either way, we should have been down in the first half, and Karma balanced it out a little bit, right? I don't know. I don't know when you mentioned sort of tactics and things like that earlier. It feels to me that regardless of whether we've said before, I know we sort of played 5-ish. If you want to argue that today, maybe we played the 4, which is what it seemed like for the most of the game. But it's shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic at the moment. It doesn't matter what we play. It doesn't matter what we play because every single player looks completely off their game. Again, bar for me, the only player that looks like a half-decent Premier League player at the moment, which is Mark Cucurella. He looks like the only one. And when he comes on and doesn't miss headers like he did in the last game, Danny Welbeck's angry. You constantly see him. He's furious because no one actually plays the pass at the right time or makes the move or takes the shot. McAllister and Mopé, and sometimes Trossard even, which he didn't used to do that. He's doing it now. So greedy with the ball when it comes to just wanting to just take an extra touch or 5. Like Mac did it multiple times today where you're like, you don't have that long on the ball. This isn't Boca Juniors, mate. Like you're getting closed down immediately by Højbjerg or someone else. You have to do something with it. I don't know. It's infuriating. I don't even know what to say, even to sort of analyze how we can actually sort of get something out of it at the moment because we're so in the mud with it. And the Norwich game is the only way that it feels like we can cure it.
I do want to jump in. I know, Craig, I think you're going to have something to say. So our listeners, our regular listeners, today is going to be a very hodgepodge conversation. We're very lucky to have a lot of people in the chat today.
What makes you say that?
Game. We've recovered this shit week in, week out for the last 6 games. We have a lot of people in the chat that we've not had before coming in and having their say. So I'm going to repeat a lot of the stuff they're saying as well. And we're going to bounce off of a lot of that stuff. So for the usual listeners, this is going to be like, what the hell is going on with this player? But it's hopefully going to be a one-time thing if we can get something against Norwich. Otherwise, this may just become a regular chaotic therapy session. But bear with us this week. Maybe you'll be able to transcribe it successfully within the 2.5 weeks you've got. But Craig, I know you had something else to say.
It's just like you said. I think if you want to know our real detailed thoughts in our narrative, you can go and listen to the previous 5 pods because it has been the same throughout. And I think Adam's right. It's the hesitancy of being able to do anything purposeful, and I think that was the word last week when we were talking. It's just around that purpose and that ability to make something happen and quickly. this immediate pressing of the team has not changed throughout the season, but something within this team has, where all of a sudden they have no idea what to do or what ideas to come up with. It's very difficult to watch at times. I think we all know that, and I think that's sort of why we're here discussing it at length. But yeah, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, and whether they think they need an extra touch because they don't really believe in themselves. They haven't really had the luck of the draw. We haven't been doing great. They feel the pressure to make something happen, and they feel like they need that extra touch rather than going with their instinct.
Yep.
I've said before, Morpay is a very instinctive striker. If you give him any more than 2 or 3 seconds, he'll probably overthink it, and it won't be good enough. Trossard, I think you pointed out as well. Yeah, there was a couple of passages of play today where he just sort of dwindled on the ball a little bit, and by that time, the 2 banks of 4 are back in for Spurs, and there's no way around.
Yep.
So it's slow, and I think that's what we were talking about in the first half, is that it's slower than we normally see it. I know we're a possession-based team, and I know that we build from the back, but at least there was purpose. There's nothing there that's currently happening. So it's tough.
You're so right on that, and what we talked about before, which is that pace thing. And Josh, you mentioned this when we were talking during the game. Someone mentioned it. Like we've slowed down the already glacial pace of play, right? Which the other thing that's mentioned in the chat as well is we've all got PTSD from the Houghton era a little bit, right? Like that style of football that we played, where it's like it got us up, it got us in position, and we felt like we were never going to get any further. And Potter comes in, and we start playing this football that makes us attractive. And even if the results don't come, as a fan, you get to look at it and you go, I've enjoyed what I've seen. And yes, we got beaten by better teams and better quality players. Right now, watching us play football for now the foreseeable amount of memory that I store in my small brain is that of poor, uninspiring, bland football. That's not what this team was about. This isn't the culture that's been created here. And that's the biggest bit of shame for me. Something's gone wrong there, and it's going to be a number of things, but we've lost that spark in it, and I don't know how we get that back.
Yeah, L Hughes, I think it's an L, not an I, but L Hughes Brighton in the chat. They are part of a Seagulls in Toronto group, so welcome, Canadian friends. Your group chats are depressing. I'm in one from England, and I'm with one with these boys, and it's not any better. So yeah. No podcast currently mentioning our club record 13-game winless run earlier in the season, and now a 6-game and counting losing run. Bit of trivia for you. Do you want to know when the last time we lost 6 league games on the bounce was? I know they told us it was like 2011 or whatever for the 5. Do you want to know when the 6 was? 2005, the championship season when we went down.
We were up and down for a few seasons.
The season is turning into a mess, and it's so painful to watch. Again, not looking like scoring, and 0 shots on target from what I believe. And who scored is pretty quick at updating these. So for 15 shots, 0 on target. Can't see us beating Norwich at this rate.
No, I agree.
It's hard to see it, doesn't it? The only thing I will counter that with is they also haven't won a single game in 6.
They're scoring though, like you mentioned earlier. They score. They look like they can put the ball in the net. We don't.
Yeah.
And that's what we said, right? Our whole stance, and we said this last week, is around our defensive ability and having a very good defensive front. And we were 4th, 5th in the league in terms of defensive duties and being able to stop scoring from happening. Our inability has always been not scoring many. And then the first half of the season, including that 13-game winless run, was at least we were picking up draws because our defense was so damn good. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the difference to what I'm seeing in the chat as well is we've always struggled for goals, but at least we were defensively sound so that we can pick up points when we're not scoring. Now that's not happening. This period of 6 losing games is very different, I personally, to the 13 games that we saw, because we drew 8 of those 13 potentially, if my memory serves, which it normally doesn't. So there's the difference, right? Is that we're not even competitive in these games, and I think that is the difference that I'm seeing from the first first winless run, shall we say, that blip in our season, that's why this feels so different to me.
Yeah, Inspired in the chat says that we need to start taking more risks. And I think he or she is right. I think we are seeing more and more. I think as we lose more and more, they're becoming more and more conservative. There's less people wanting to be the person they could be pointing the finger at. You know what I mean? They're like, I'll pass it on to this person. I feel like we did that 8 times today. I think there was about 6 opportunities for Solly to cross that ball in, and I ended up passing it back to Gross or someone. Mope's ball control, awful. Every ball fizzed into him. He looks like he's surprised to receive it. Enoch on the door hits on something that I actually brought up, I think 2 or 3 times this season. We have no attacking coach to actually teach forward plays. None. We have none. And do you know why I want to touch on this more? Because I was looking at this earlier. We have 15 permanent coaching staff at Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club that are all on the club website. All their profiles are on there. Not one of them has ever played as a striker. This goes across men's and women's football and the under-23s and the under-18s. Ever. Not one. Not one coach at any level from under-18s and upwards, including women's football, has played as a striker. None. Not at all. Why haven't we got Glenn Murray on the phone? Asking him to do it when he's not punting. To me, I really think there's smoke and fire in that shout, Enoch on the door. I've been alluding to it for a while, and the longer these scoring woes go on, how is this not being looked at or addressed for me? I don't understand it.
It is strange. I think it was very inadvertent by the club to even let that come out, wasn't it? It felt like it at least. But now you've got people digging into it, and it is strange that there seems to be, like you said, some clear, well, I say clear instruction or clear lack of instruction to focus on that attacking side of things, or at least that side. And I'm sure the team work on it. I'm not saying that they're just heading balls out of the box for 2.5 hours a day. But what we're getting at is something's got to change. And is it the coaching side? And I think it was Inspired in the chat as well, just around, the whole Potter out agenda that's inevitably going to be rearing its head on social media and throughout group chats up and down. I don't think we're at a Potter out phase, in my own opinion, but maybe the coaching staff do need to change, or something needs to change behind the scenes, because confidence is shot. And so, we're now seeing players fearful of being scapegoated, when actually we just need to focus on our own play and be able to do what we do. I feel like it's a mental thing now. Your 6 losses on the bounce, and nobody wants to take that chance.
It definitely is. I absolutely agree. There's some merit in this idea that clearly we can't score. I mean, geez, whoever's coaching it shouldn't be coaching it. These last 6 games, we've scored 1 goal from a corner. It was a corner free kick. The other side of it, though, is that it's not a silver bullet that solves all these issues. We conceded 13 goals and scored 1. Maybe we should stop conceding the 13 goals, which arguably should be 15. Spurs should have had a penalty in the 80 whatever. Kane was hacked down in the box. They just gave up. They pitted us maybe, and he missed an open goal. I
mean, we've had a few of those every game. Burnley could have had 6.
Yeah,
on a different day.
Yeah, it's an embarrassing situation, and I'm gonna rehash what I said on the last pod in case I know we've got new people in the chat, more people listening. But when we sum up this season, people were talking about Europe. Everyone was getting excited. Potter's going to go to Man U. Blah blah blah. Here's the list of sides that we've beaten in the Premier League this year. Leicester in that very jammy game where we were very lucky to win 2-1. Then here's the rest. It's going to take a minute here to go through these. Burnley, Watford, Brentford, and Everton. Yeah, no prizes for seeing where they're at in the league table, right? And you hope we add Norwich to that list. If you don't, we then play Arsenal, Spurs, and Man City, right? So it's not to me. This Yes,
I mean, Wolves as well. I mean, you can add Wolves to that list of next games. Like, Wolves are on fire. They're just as problematic as the other three.
I don't look at our schedule now. Well, of course we don't have an easy game because we're diabolical right now. But even if you think about, do we have winnable games? Maybe a couple. Leeds and Norwich.
Leeds and Norwich, yeah.
Give Southampton a game, maybe. But then you start, and I think because of those, I'm going to say fortunate results and grinding out the draws, because we earned those draws. Let's not get away from that. We earned the draws and those additional points that are going to save this season from being a disaster. Because if you imagine if we didn't get those odd points here and there throughout this season, we're having the relegation conversations and they're real, truly real. And imagine we get relegated off the back of this. Think about how the morale would be around the club. Potter would be gone, obviously. You lose most of your players. Maybe that's a good thing. At least we're not having that conversation right now, because of what we're going to reap what we sowed slightly earlier on. But let's not get away from the fact that we've never been a side that's been free-flowing, scoring lots of goals, winning lots of games this year. We've ground out some decent results against teams where we maybe did better than what we should have done. And now we can't do that. Now we've fallen away.
Yep. Just to jump on some things in the chat super quick. We are finished. Is possibly Potter out? He doesn't see a change in game plan. Same subs every game. Same interview every game. No adaptation. Again, El Hughes Brighton, Groundhog Day. We don't even seem to be making too much to change. Why aren't we bringing in fringe players, going gung-ho for a game, doing something different? I think just super quick to address that. I think that goes hand in hand with what we just said on certain players not willing to take those risks that they were in the first half of the season. I think it's a mentality shift, not a good one, obviously. L Hughes again in the chat, summarizing the same way, Adam, you did. We've always struggled for goals. We got lucky we have Murray. We haven't adequately replaced him ever since. Maybe Undav will be that person. There's nobody able to show creative ability in the shot side from JP. We've been taught, JP, if you've listened to this show, we've been harking on about this for a long time. The goals in midfield are absolutely just pathetic. They're just pathetic. There isn't any.
Non-existent, yeah.
Yep, absolutely nothing. Get the ball wide, switch play, but it isn't quick. Agreed. Yeah, it's just not great, is it? Last season, we lost when we didn't deserve to, and this season, we're just getting battered every game. Now we are. But you got to remember, this was a pretty good season before this. There was a lot of games where, especially in that first part, we were winning when we didn't deserve to be winning, as opposed to drawing when you should have won. That was kind of that turn in the corner this year. So we're obviously all focused on 6 games on the trot, but I wouldn't be so fast to slag off the whole season. I don't think we've been terrible all year, but I do understand the frustration. Obviously, we were watching the same product.
So, and this all came around, and I just conspiracy theorist and all that jazz. But we saw a clear mentality shift once the January transfer window ended, and ever since then, I think we spoke a couple of times around Basuma maybe having his head turned. He wasn't the same guy that he was. He showed glimpses of it today. I'm very happy about that because on his day he changes games for us. But ever since that turn into February, we got a nice win against shite Watford, to be fair. But otherwise, it has been very bad. And like I said, it's not about being competitive and just being unlucky. That first goal for Spurs today, a lucky deflection, you give and take those. Sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them. But we haven't been anywhere near our best since the beginning of February. And like we said, something's changed or something has shifted. We better find it pretty quickly.
Who do you think, if we could name the players on the team that are playing to the level which we know they're capable of, right? Well, we've seen them play. Who do we think's actually, who's done that this year in 2022?
In 2022,
Yep.
Kukurea, definitely.
Yep.
I think
Solly, maybe?
Probably
well.
Solly March. Yeah. I
Yep.
would say Solly March.
I would go with that. For January, Moda as well. He, like we said, he's looked tired lately, and it's really fallen off. But I thought that he had played pretty well because that was when we were without Basuma for AFCON, and I thought he stepped up magnificently.
Yep.
But not much more outside of that.
Second part of the question: who has played arguably some of their worst football in 2022 that we've ever seen? I've got a feeling it's a slightly longer list than those 2 to 3 players.
Yeah, we're 30 minutes in and we only have so much time, Adam.
But it's also, if you think about it, right? Outside of Kukurea, it's our best players. Our best players are playing their worst football that they've ever played for us. You're not going to win games like that. And it's easy to talk about the tactics. People are going to go back, we gave away so-and-so, this player, and I'm not even going to say his name at this point. It doesn't matter. Oh, there it's in the chat. Sorry, Alex. So Alex already mentioned it. The tall defender that's gone to Newcastle. It doesn't matter. It's more than that. If you put any one player into this side right now, it doesn't change it. Like we said before, you could have Mbappe in this team. I think we still lose the last 6 games.
I mean, I think Inspired has answered the question too, right? That who has really gone off the boil, and the answer is Mope, Sanchez, and Dunk. I would go further and say Trossard and Basuma as well, heavily. Because Trossard for me was, I think it was like late December. I was thinking like, if he keeps playing the way he is, he's an underdog for player of the season. Now he's underdog for get him out. I'd rather not see him play again this season.
I don't think Martinez is going to be giving him a call anytime soon.
I mean, when you look at those names, Mope, Sanchez, Dunk, Basuma, and Trossard, if you include it,
that's your spine.
That's the definition of the word spine.
Yeah.
And Lallana's out injured. Webster's out injured.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We sat here a couple of weeks ago and we said, can't wait to have Webster back because, he makes such a difference. It's far superseded that. I think even if Webster plays today, I think it's wouldn't have made too much of a difference, to be honest. And that's nothing against Webster's talents. I agree with Adam. I think he's probably our most talented defender. But I don't think he would have stopped us losing today.
It's the same conversation Adam and I had this weekend while you were paddying it up.
A much better decision.
We said the same. Yeah. We said the exact same thing, but a lot of people this weekend were going crazy over the fact that we wouldn't have had that result against Liverpool if Burn was in the side. We'd have had the exact same result against them if Burn was in the side. If we had Burn and Webster in the side against some of these teams, that you can bring 2 players in and have them play well, but if the other 9 are playing like shite, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
It's a collective off the boil move, and for me, like that just further reinforces that something's very wrong somewhere in that back room. Something is very, very wrong, and obviously we don't know what it is. But like Inspired said in the chat, Webster does bring more of a direct drive forward than our bloody midfielders do, and like you couldn't say it any better, really. Like that's absolutely true. Which of those midfielders that we've had in the side today was going to be driving forward? Because none of them did. Gross doesn't have the pace to drive anything. He doesn't have it at all. Trossard is spending more time looking backwards for an attacking midfielder. Basuma just doesn't really care anymore outside of, like you said, about 15, 20 minutes at the start of the game where he looked like he was back and then he just decided he was no longer making an effort. Moda's on the bench, who was pretty good at driving forward for a while there, but he's being rested. McAllister is doing nothing. I forgot he was playing for half the game.
We haven't talked to, I know he only made a little bit of an appearance, but Lamptey's also been pretty anonymous, our saviour. Not done a lot at all. Trossard's runs, I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you draw a sort of a 45-degree angle out from the opponent's box, Trossard just runs outwards, gets away from 2 to 3 players, realizes he's then further from the goal than where he started, and then just plays a pass sideways or backwards. And he does that for 90 minutes at the moment. That's all he does. He's forgotten that he can go the other way towards the goal. I think the big thing for me and what you said is that this comes down to what are we? Who's drilling these players into doing what they're doing? Because are they being told by Potter and the coaching staff, retain possession at all costs, pass it backwards if you don't have an option, and that's what you're going to do? Or are the players doing that of their own volition? They don't see anything on as what you guys are saying earlier, right? They're not confident enough to make those more, passes that aren't going to be potentially quite as successful. That's the big thing. But you see Potter on the sidelines saying, like, get forward, do this, make this move. You see Welbeck shouting. So to me, it really does feel like this isn't what the players are being told, but it's what they're doing, which is this really conservative play style. And it has to come down to confidence. But I don't know why it has, because you come back from the break, you have that. I honestly feel like that. Well, it's obvious that turning point in the season for us was that weird get the FA Cup fourth round against Spurs, right? It came at an awkward time. It was like, forget about that. Let's pretend that never happened. Then we go into the game against Watford, get that 2-0 win. We have that horribly unfortunate game against Man U where we walk away 2-0. And then I think the Burnley game was just like, we get, assassinated in point blank range. And that's that. But to me, that's why it's weird. Like, prior to that point, we were doing this against Burnley. Like, where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? What point and why? That's the bit that's confusing.
Yep. We always seem to drop off after the January window. What causes a whole team to perform so poorly? Usually it's a handful at most for a few games. This is a whole team. I mean, they're not wrong, are they? Ashworth and the youth coach, Morling, or whatever his name is, are also leaving. Like, is something else maybe wrong deeper than that? Inspired, asking what can Lamptey really do when no one else is able to do anything because no one's in the box to try and take advantage.
Again, you're right.
Fair point.
You're right.
JP also points out that it feels like Potter doesn't know what to do tactic-wise. I think We Are Finished also said something similar above. A few changes in the last few weeks with 4 at the back or 3 at times. He looks lost. I would argue he looks lost because there's little to no options for him, especially defensively, right? What you see is what you get. What we had on the pitch was all we have, barring Lamptey. That was it. That's our entire defensive grouping. There's nothing to try and rotate with. There is no Dan Burn to bring in. There is no Ben White to bring in. He has no Webster. We don't obviously trust Hayden Roberts, who is back firmly amongst the under-23s now. He's not even getting on the bench anymore. He's limited by his choices at this point for the most. Offensively, he has a lot more options, with the group that are, I mean, Sarmiento's coming back, Webu's coming back, Caicedo's sat on the bench now for weeks, and I don't know why we're not trying to give him a different bit of run out. But defensively, I think that's part of the answer. Like, in terms of what to do tactics wise, what can you do? Like, this lineup, this back four that you see on the pitch, and Tariq Lamptey are all we have right now. There is no other option. So what are you supposed to do?
The other part here is when we talk about this idea of this 4 at the back, the 5 at the back, and whatnot. Our problem in these games hasn't been moving the ball from defense to midfield to the final third. We get to the final third, all right. And then we just collapse. And then, of course, we concede the standard counter-attacking goals every single game. Like, it doesn't matter what point of the season, that's just our calling card.
I mean, that was at our best, at our very best with Potter last year before, Houghton, whoever.
Yep.
At whatever it is, teams at our level are going to get hammered on counterattacks all the time. It just seems worse at the minute for us because it's happening a lot.
Yeah, and there's nothing to balance it out.
No.
You don't get to go, oh, yeah, we conceded on the counterattack, but at least what a great shot that... We can't even say what a great shot. I don't remember the last time I've said what a great shot.
And that's the thing, is I wouldn't mind if it was a very dangerous, attack and they managed to get it away and that commitment was there. But the thing is, we're seeing full commitment in the final third, making squat, and then still being beaten on the counter attack. So
yeah.
It's strange to me, if you've got 8 people in the box like waiting for a cross and it doesn't quite get there, then yeah, I can appreciate a counter attack and its danger. But the counter attack today for the second goal, we've got 3 defenders running back, and Kane beats all 3 of them. It's not from a lack of defenders in the right position. It's just slow. It is, and it's just not reading it enough.
Dunk at fault there was
and going back to the spine of the team just being completely off the boil. I have no idea what Sanchez is doing for that second goal. He is quicker than your average goalkeeper, and he would have got there. Because when you watch the replay back, that ball is p-rolling before Kane hits that past him at his near post. He won't be happy with that more than anyone else, but very bad call. Stinks of a lack of confidence, especially with someone that is normally so full of it. Just the wrong decision.
A real basic goalkeeping knowledge error. That was bad. Maybe you just saw Harry Kane's figure sprinting towards him, and just there was an air of inevitability about it. But it was his most notable, which is saying something. Awful decision. You can forgive the other ones where maybe he keeps the ball too long and say he's trying to look for the right pass or get the right outlet. This was just bad keeping.
Yep. Yeah, we went through some of the stats this weekend, actually, after it was getting absolutely panned on social media last week by some people. And the reality is he's not as bad as social media will have you believe. And then he went out there tonight and was like, yeah, I'll do it again then. and really went out there to try and make us look like idiots. Indefensible, really, isn't it? It's absolutely appalling stuff. And I know it hasn't really been mentioned in the chat. Inspired saying he's ashamed he didn't get that red last week. Well, here's part of the problem, I think. Where's his competition? There isn't any. Jason Steele is never going to be a Premier League goalkeeper. McGill is like what, 12? But like we've got.
Where did Sherpen run off to again?
Good question. I'm not sure.
He's in the Eredivisie, isn't he? I can't remember what the name was, but yeah, I know he's playing in the Dutch top tier.
Yep, we got rid of Christian Walton, which I think was a good idea, but we've got no real competition, have we? And for Sherpen, I can understand it's a hard place and a rock, right? Because he wanted to actively play football, so you can't keep him here to play as a competition piece because he's not going to be happy if he doesn't get to play a game. Just like Leo Ostergaard, who we could probably do with right now, who we had to send off to Genoa because we couldn't guarantee him first team football. We could only offer him a competition place.
And from what I've heard, he's doing well.
He's done whatever it's been, I think. I think it was just a pretty bad, unfortunate turn of injuries for Stoke, right?
Oh, I think he also fell out with the manager, didn't he?
Did he?
It was a little bit of a disagreement, and he sort of fell out of the pecking order alongside the injuries, obviously. But but you can appreciate that from the player's perspective, can't you? So
I've just read the chat. I didn't mean to laugh while you were talking, Craig.
Read it out for the class, Adam.
L. Hughes kindly reminded us that Sherpen plays for Ostend and scored an own goal last time. Last game. So yeah, there you go. That's Sanchez's main competition for a starting spot at the club.
But going back to that point, who is going to be happy with that competition piece? Jason Steele. He's absolutely fine playing that role. So it all comes back to that thing of why don't we have Ostergaard on the bench? Why don't we have Sherpen on the bench? It's because they don't want to be, because they want to be playing. You can appreciate that from a human element perspective and from a professional capacity. They want to be playing games and they want to be doing the best that they can. And if you're on the bench at the moment, if you are Sarmiento, if you are Mwepu today, you're going, what? We're 2-0 down and I could probably try and change this game. Why am I not being put on?
They have to be they either have to be carrying those injuries in a big way still, horrendously unfit, or they kicked Potter while he was sleeping homeless on the street that one time.
I mean, Sarmiento was just came back into training. Though it was only
Wepu was on the bench last week
that.
as well, wasn't he? Or
But
with the
Wepu,
weekend?
yeah. I am inspired, actually excited about Wepu's return because I genuinely think he was one of the better players in our side before he got hurt. That little run he had, I thought he actually looked like one of the few midfielders that was going to drive us forward.
Yeah, he goes forward, not sideways. It might not be very good, but he goes forward.
Sarmiento.
Just purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see with Sarmiento. I mean, he's got another 2.5 weeks now, hasn't he, to rest up and actually get as close to match fit as you can be. Substitutions today. I know we've talked about it a little bit. Welbeck, Lanty, and Moda on for Bissouma, Veltman, and Gross. That's another game Bissouma was not capable of seeing out. Dragged off at 62 minutes. Is it? I'll answer it. I'll answer my own question. It's time to drop Bissouma full time and start seeing who can play that role instead, because he clearly isn't interested in playing it himself. I have the same attitude about Pascal Gross, frankly. He's not going to be here next year, or if he is, he's not going to be playing very much at all. And we'd have to renew his contract, which I just can't see us doing. I'd rather see Alzate, even a tired Moda, Wepu, Caicedo. Like I've said that 3 times already in this, but I'd rather see those players in and see what they got. I know that some people still think we might go down. We're not going to go down. I said to you two today, 30 points, I think, was safety without us even realizing it. And I keep saying it every podcast, and it's going to get quite worrying. But we're not going to lose every game to the end of the season. Like, it just is so statistically improbable. We're going to do something, even if we just grab a couple of points. Like, just
I was about to say, you like a win and a draw, and you're on what, 37, and that's, normally statistically enough. So it's just, I think that's the thing, right? You're 6 without a point. It's like, where do those points come from? If you're telling me that for the rest of the season we lose every single game, then I'll sit here and I'll say, yeah, categorically we were wrong. That's that's on me, but I can't see it happening. There will be a lot of Debbie Downers, and there will be a lot of pessimism on channels and the like. I think we're lucky to have a fairly okay first start of the season where we ground out those results, which means that actually we're not sitting here hoping and praying that we beat Norwich in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's incredibly important that we do to maintain what we're trying to achieve, but I don't think it's a 6-pointer.
I'm worried. I said this last time. I'm worried because it's momentum and trend and all that kind of stuff. You look at it on the other side of things. We're 3 points from 9th position, but it feels a lot further than that, doesn't it? It really does. I look at the games, and I think we have to this time period that we have before this next game, which is it's going to be, what is it, the 2nd of April, this next game. There has to be a grandpa ballet session, some kumbaya. Maybe they've all got to go off to a villa somewhere in the Algarve and find themselves, because they have to because the way I look at it, I go, okay, well, we've not scored a goal from open play in 6 games. And prior to that, it was the Watford game. I could see us losing 90% of the games. I could, because you have to look at that and go, okay, well, clearly it doesn't seem like we can score, even if every single game went to extra time. And even then with penalties, it feels, I don't know. And then we concede a horrendous amount. So I'm concerned. I don't think we go down, but can we make it so that we make this the most unbearable situation for everyone involved? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it feels that way. Just to touch on the last few bits of the game, I do want to touch on two conversations, really, just yes or no's if you want. Penalty just before the 2nd goal, handball on whoever that was in the box. I couldn't actually. There was so many. There was just a mix of people in there. Definitely a Spurs player of some ilk. Handball, yes or no? We saw the VAR stuff. We saw the replays at pretty good angles. Certainly wasn't in a natural position, but it was very close and a set piece. So, thoughts? Penalty for the Albion or no? Regardless whether you think we were going to score it.
I don't think so. I think the proximity of that hitting him and the scramble of players around him. I think we'd be pissed if that was given against us. So, using perspective alone, I would say probably not.
Yep, fair. I think Inspired covered my thoughts actually in the chat. One of those that wouldn't have been changed if it was given and won't get changed if it's not. It was exactly that. I think there was not a clear and obvious error either way. Not that VAR does clear and obvious errors.
Well, they weren't there, as proven at the end of the game. So.
Yeah, VAR definitely dipped out on 80 minutes when the rest of the fans did, didn't they? Because there's the second penalty shout. Harry Kane on Shane Duffy, or rather the other way around. Shane simply decided that he was going to boot Harry Kane. Good to the collective audience, I suspect. Penalty for Harry Kane, yes or no?
Yeah,
it looked like it. Yeah.
Same.
It was, I mean, even if it wasn't, it's still silly of Shane Duffy to even think about putting a leg in there because it was very rash. It's such a silly predicament to even put yourself in as a centre back.
Yeah. L Hughes in the chat. With Potter's qualifications, which do get a lot of noise, people love talking about it, don't they? The analysts and stuff. It's awesome. Very, very novel for them. Shouldn't he be a good person to stop a bad run like this and get the guys going again? I think he has shown that more than once, right, in the last 3 years. But this is a special kind of shit show, isn't it? I think this is a special kind of implosion.
That should be the book that's written at the end of the season. Special kind of shit show.
Yeah, this is definitely a level above, I think, L Hughes, compared to what we've seen in recent seasons, where he has turned around some pretty dire stuff. This is the direst. I wouldn't be at all surprised if you're spot on, Adam. We hear about some kind of Swan Lake or something taking place in this next 2.5 weeks. The trip to Disneyland, maybe.
Big team building energy in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to happen, right? I've got another stat for you because I love this one. Wikipedia is good mostly, but I couldn't get any further back. So since the turn of the millennium, because I couldn't find any of the older stuff. What is our longest league losing streak in a row? How many games? Bear in mind, if we were to lose everything for the rest of the season, it would be a Premier League record 16. How many is our worst losing streak?
I say maybe 8.
I'll screw you with prices right. I'll go 9.
It is 12.
Whoa.
We lost 12 games on the spin in 2002 against, I'll list all 12. Norwich, Wimbledon, RIP, Walsall, Portsmouth, Millwall, Gillingham, Stoke, Rotherham, Grimsby, what a fall from grace they've had, Watford, Sheffield United, and that 12-game losing streak was culminated with a 5-0 drubbing against Crystal Palace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one quite well.
Yeah, not great, was it? And then
so we're halfway there.
Yeah. We are halfway there to a club record league defeats, at least since the turn of the millennium. Not great, is it? Really?
I want to go back to what JP said in the chat as well, because I think normally I would say the same thing, right? This is, to that point earlier, this is Brighton, right? We'll probably end up beating City, United, as you say here, and then losing to Norwich. Normally, I would agree with you, but based on what we've seen this season, as we mentioned earlier, if you remove that Leicester game, we've not beaten a side that's above 15th in the table. We've not beaten a side that's above us. I think that was last season. We're still remembering that beautiful last season. And then some of the draws and performances that we put in very early on the start. To me, if I go back in this season, the best performance we put in wasn't even a game we won this year. It was against Arsenal at home. That was the best I thought I've seen us play. I'd be interested to see what people think about that in the chat, or whether you're thinking of a different game. But yeah, I don't see that this year. I don't see us beating the likes of Man City. I think it's way more likely us losing 7-0 to City than it is us pulling out a 20-21 Brighton and getting a win.
It's strange, isn't it? It's that again. It's the shift in mentality in everyone, though, isn't it? It's saying we don't see where those next points are coming from. At least like what JP is saying is like, well, don't worry, this is the typical Brighton way. Like we've seen this over and over again. It feels like a lot of people are feeling different right now. It's a categorical no. I don't know where the next point is coming from, let alone us turning up at Anfield to get a goal. So yeah, so hard pressed to remain positive. But what else can you do?
Yeah, Norwich next. They are, and I feel like I've seen this said a couple of times by some of the analysts, but I'll say this is actually the true one. This is Norwich's last chance saloon for me. They're coming up to the Amex to a team that is absolute dog shit, just as shit as they are, shitter, currently on form. And they are going to have to be well up for this, aren't they? Because they're 5 points adrift now. And a win against us would leave them 8 games to go, and they're back in the thick of it. They're back. That gap has been closed down. You've got to think that this is going to be their last hurrah, right? So I think you've got to put a statement out there if there's ever a time for Brighton.
This and Burnley at home for them, isn't it? Those are the two, and then they suddenly get to United, Newcastle, Villa, West Ham, Wolves, Tottenham to finish off the season. So
it's over then, isn't it?
Yeah, their next 2 games are just monument. So it be interesting. But like you said, they have to be bang up for it. I mean, I don't think they have to be, but they should be bang up for it to try and get 3 points from us. Do you think that plays in our favor, though?
I think it has to, right? They've got to come at us. I mean, look at today. Even today, we conceded a deflection, a horrible deflection, and a counter-attack goal. We shouldn't be. If Norwich are going to come at us, I think we've just got to allow them to. I think we've got to allow Norwich to come at us and try and do the reverse Uno card them. But like people are,
we should.
But like people have said in the chat, the worry is that we're not seeing that kind of adaptation at the minute. We're just playing the same way, hoping to see different results. And I mean, as Inspired said, send Mopé on the counter. The problem is we don't have a great counter-attacking team. There's no pace there, is there? There hasn't been pace there for a long time.
Trossard false 9, Sarmiento left wing, Lamptey right wing. See what happens. 11 men behind the ball. I just laugh every time I see Norwich's goal difference, and I don't think there's a last chance saloon. I think they're dead outside of it. It is
in the trough.
They're with the horses. There's nothing there going on. I'm minus 45 goal difference. Imagine if we're on minus 10 and the world is ending, like the locusts are coming. Like, think about that. I think the only worry there is just Dean Smith has the ability to galvanize a dressing room. Like, that's clear. I know the results aren't necessarily showing, but the performances are showing something there. Potter's that much more reserved kind of guy, right? We can create the system and style of play, and it can be impressive. But as we're seeing, can he turn around players whose heads have dropped? He doesn't have that same character as Dean Smith. That's why when you go into this game, you're like, well, who's going to be inspired coming out of it? So as we say, it better be a really good fucking rendition of Swan Lake. Who knows?
Problem is JP in the chat. Problem is fans will get on the team's back. Difficult, but fans need to get behind them. Would you argue this is the worst atmosphere we've had for a long time?
There's an atmosphere?
Yeah. I mean, that's the question, right? We can't make it to games. We're all based in the US, but we can hear it just fine and see all the blue seats. Scheduling games at 7:00 on a Wednesday is a start to not get as many blue seats, to be honest. But when you are playing in that way we are, Is it any surprise that the atmosphere is shit? I don't think so. Like you both have said today, and many people have said in the chat today, it's not like we're creating those quality chances that we used to anymore to get excited about. We're not doing any of that anymore. There's nothing to be excited about. We're not keeping clean sheets. We're not looking like we could score goals, and we certainly aren't scoring goals. Who wants to go and do that in a pissing rain on a Wednesday at 7:30 against Spurs, against a decent side that should beat you comfortably?
There was a question earlier, I think, from L. Hughes asking about what's the reason for this low attendance and poor for midweek game, transport cost, all of those things. Yeah, and we've talked about this before, and we won't go into it in any detail. But yeah, it's a number of things. It's what Josh mentioned. It's everything you mentioned. It's a pain in the ass to get to the Amex, especially if the main reason you're going to go is to see how badly we lose. Or to see what Harry Kane's form is going to be before the Qatar World Cup. You know, like that's why it's, and pay for the privilege.
Yes.
It's not a new thing. It just gets emphasized even further when we're on a 6-game running streak.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's always been a problem. It's just even worse at the moment.
Yeah.
What we don't need, and I think, obviously we don't want the fans to get on their back, but that's naturally going to happen if you don't actually try and win. So conservative, lack of creative, what, like Josh said, what is there to cheer about and get behind? The last real time I saw that was probably the Chelsea at home game where Webster thumped in the header. You had that 4, 5, 6 minute span where the crowd were into it, and we felt like something was going to happen. It's very few and far between, and I don't begrudge people that choose not to go, unfortunately, especially at this point.
The biggest cheer that we get at the Amex at the moment is when Gross does the Cruyff 10.
We saw a good one today.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're always good.
Yeah.
He does. That's his thing.
We'll shift on to the positive, shall we? At least we saw one of those. We're 1-0 on the Gross turns.
Has anyone done one better than Johan himself?
I don't think so.
Did Jordi even do it? His own progeny as well as that? I don't know. But yeah, I think we just give us more games at the Saturday normal kickoff time. It's nice and sunny. It's getting into the summer. Let's get some actual atmosphere. I say that. I mean, we've got the Norwich game and we're away for 3 games. Maybe that's a good thing.
So, got to ask it, because unfortunately, this question is going to be one that we're having to ask every week, I think, for the foreseeable until we start turning it around. Just because there's going to be a lot more conversation about it. So, we may as well just lay out our stances every week. And they may change. I don't know. Last week, per the North Stand chat poll, and a lot of I know. And North Stand chat, I know their general demographic is not the same as ours, so they don't really overlap greatly. But welcome for anyone who is on North Stand chat. Should Tony Bloom sack Graham Potter last week, this week, after we lost the last game? Yes, 5.18%. So only 5% thought he should get the bin. If we lose against Norwich, it's up to 30% thinking he should get binned off after the Norwich game if we were to lose. So if we get beat by Norwich next weekend or the weekend after, because it's ages away, regardless of manner of defeat, just a loss is a loss, right? Like at the end of the day, it's the 7th frigging one. Like, let's not worry about how it happened. Take the L against Norwich. Do you pull the trigger, or are you keeping Graham Potter in for another week? Potter roulette.
No, you don't pull the trigger.
I pull the trigger on who made the poll.
All right, cool. So all 3 of us are so far in agreement that if we lose to Norwich, Potter's still in. We will be back next time for the 8th defeat to decide how we feel about Graham and what we're going to do going forward. Alex in the chat, regardless of where we finish, Bloom won't sack Potter till the summer. I think it'd be bonkers to sack him at all, to be honest, Alex.
Yeah.
I really do. He isn't going to struggle to get a job, is he? Let's be honest. He's got such an easy conversation to be having with anybody. If he goes, people were like, "Oh, well, who's going to hire him? He's shit with us." He's not been shit with us. Like if he gets sacked off, he'll go into a new job than us, no problem at all. All he needs to say is like, "Yeah, look at the stuff I've been doing in the meantime with Brighton. I've had the fourth bottom budget in the league, and I've been trying to meet a top 10 ambition. I've changed the way they play football. I've changed everything going on, all that sort of stuff."
All meanwhile trying to sell your best players at the best possible opportunity.
Without replacing them. I got Brighton their best ever finish in the Premier League on a bottom 4 wage budget. I've been given no resources to become a top 10 team compared to what a top 10 budget should be. I'm moving on. I'll happily move on to a club that can back up their words with their bank balance. Will you have me? There'll be a bunch of Premier League teams in that lower half who'll go, when can you start? I think we'd be mental to sack him off.
Here's devil's advocate.
Yeah, good. Love it.
Because I agree with you. But there was another manager in this league who came in, redefined the culture and the style of play of a football team to great success, was lauded by other managers and the press, and was recently fired. You do not survive regardless of what you've done in a Premier League team, regardless of all the excuses you can have. Like at Ellen Road, where most of their team has been injured most of the year, you get thrown out. As much as everyone's going to be sad and people put their heads down and, statements get put out and people go, "Oh God, it's such a shame. You thank you for everything you've done for the club." You're still fired. That happens. This is just the way it works in this business and in this league. Potter is not, yes, he'll get another job, but he is not immortal in this role. He really isn't.
I agree with that. He's not. He's at the same whims as anyone else.
And that's the thing, right? Is that, three fans sitting here with a chat full of Potter in and outs, and we can talk about this until the cows come home. But essentially, there are some people that look at this as a business, and look at this from a perspective of, are we seeing progression year on year, and can we do any better? Do we hedge our bets and try and get something better? We say, you'd be mental, but there will be people out there either on, a very, a very emotional response to a few losses, or a very pragmatic response in their eyes. But there will ultimately be people, as that poll suggests, that 3 out of every 10 Brighton fan that committed to that poll would say that, yeah, he needs to go. So there are people out there that do think that. I respect that, but I still think it's mental.
My toxic Brighton trait is I would take Gus Poyet back tomorrow.
Now that's a guy who can't get a job.
He's at Greece. He's Greece manager now.
Exactly.
Is in the national team?
Yeah, the national team. Yeah.
I'll refrain from anything there. But prior to that, wasn't he fired from every single job in the most defunct leagues possible?
Yeah, I think he was at Universidad or somewhere before that.
Exactly.
Bordeaux, I think, had a massive meltdown, didn't they? They had 3 people arrested and stuff like that, and then it was a nightmare. Yeah, he does tend to sow chaos, even when he's not actually directly involved. He tends to find himself in chaos regardless. I'd still take him back. That's my toxic trait.
Universidad Católica, based in Santiago, Chile.
Great team.
You remember we had his son on the books as well. I just realized he's retired at the age of 26.
Has he?
Well, he's 26 now. I don't know when he retired. But unless I'm just talking nonsense, but that's what just came up.
2 more things before we go off. Looks like we've got a genuine title race on our hands with Liverpool winning tonight, and there'll be 1 point off the top with one game if they win their game in hand. I'm not sure who that is, but at least it's entertaining. I'm glad that we've actually got a title race. I feel like the last couple of years has been pretty much one at a canter.
Remember when everyone said the season was over about 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Yeah,
I was being told the season was over, and Man City had won it and Newcastle going down. What's happened, huh?
Yep, agreed. And then secondly, I I've got some interesting source on the inside. Charlotte FC here have already agreed to a pre-season game this summer with Chelsea. I can't wait to see what sides show up from Chelsea.
Can they afford the plane ticket?
Exactly. Like, I can't wait to see what on earth goes on there, because it's I've got some people who work for the Bank of America Stadium, and they had it updated on their schedule this week internally that Chelsea have been confirmed for a July preseason fixture, and I was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "That's not right."
Well, they might have American owners.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd be fortunate enough to be purchased by a.
I saw that the Cubs of all teams as well.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that. That'd be wonderful to see who the hell shows up. We'll just be there under 17s, won't it? This stage, whoever can afford their own ticket in the under 17s will pop up. They'll probably still beat Charlotte FC. But yeah,
you went to that stadium, didn't you?
Yeah.
Is it nice?
The Bank of America, it's all right. It was really good. It was really good on the night of the first ever game they had a couple of weeks ago. Team is dog shit though. They play very similarly to the way Brighton do, but have far worse players throughout the entire spine of the side. So it's horrific to watch every single second of it. So yeah.
I wonder if Chelsea saw the Bank of America in the title of the stadium and thought, hold on, maybe we can get money out from here.
Just do a whip round.
Yeah, maybe this was just, they didn't actually know. They're like, maybe we can just get some.
Just the biggest cash point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they must have tons of them there. We can get some money out of Roman's accounts while we're there.
Yeah, that's the hope. Just bring their Cayman Island cards in and try and whack them in the ATM. Yeah. Have we got anything else? We are at 1 hour 11, and it's mostly been quite sad. So does anyone else, do you have any other topics, thoughts, feelings, concerns before this 2.5 week break?
Denison, Dev, the clock. I'm ready. Just sign him up. He better be the second coming of Glenn Murray. It has to be.
Yeah, seriously. L. Hughes in the chat, can we get Brighton over to the USA and Canada? Fantastic question, L. Hughes. I'm very good authority that they were already arranging games in Boston and New York prior to the pandemic, and then everything went to shit. So I am almost certain that sometime in the future, we will have the Albion over here if we stay up consistently for the next couple of years, post-pandemic mess. But I know for a fact that conversation was happening. Because it wasn't really a secret internally. People who worked in the club shop knew they were talking about that. So, yeah, that was definitely something that would happen. Boston and New York, I believe, were the two initially discussed, and I can't see them changing on that. So, Toronto, Canada in general could whip down to New York.
If Brighton come out to New York, we'll get a crew together and go. That's
absolutely.
Yeah. He'll be hosting a Together BHA sleepover.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if someone can sleep on that. Plenty of room. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Well, on that note, looking forward to hopeful things. We will speak to you in 2.5 weeks' time. Lots of time to rest up for some of those players that need to get fit. Webster, Mwepu, Sarmiento. Lots of time to perfect their lines and rehearsals for Swan Lake or whatever they need to do, and see if we can get some kind of better performance, please God, in April. And be good, everybody. Have a safe couple of weeks, and we will speak to you again later on down the line.
Thanks for everyone in the chat. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.